Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our third webinar on bringing out the leader in you. Bridge the Gap is a series of webinars that will take you through a number of topics that have been carefully put together to help you become a better professional and a leader. This program is powered by the American Center Colombo, a branch of the US Embassy that works towards empowering the youth of Sri Lanka with giving them the necessary skills towards becoming global citizens. To know more about the American Center, I will share their Facebook and Instagram links on the chat box. Please do remember to like them and follow them to find out about many such programs that they do. With the same sentiments, we have Headway Learning Solutions, who has been working towards uplifting the language skills for the last 20 years, providing consultations, training, language assessment, and testing. Headway Learning Solutions has worked with a number of public and private run institutes to provide language and communication solutions. The two institutes have partnered once again to bring you Bridge the Gap, a series of webinars designed to help you move closer towards your professional aspirations. And I am excited because today we are going to be exploring the world of leadership. To do so, we have with us Ms. Lilanthi Herat, a lady who has more than 30 years of experience as a senior executive in multiple disciplines, with expertise spanning across an array of industries such as manufacturing, real estate, biodynamic agriculture, to name a few. Ms. Lilanthi Herat specializes in financial, organizational debt and balance sheet restructuring of companies, whilst leading and driving teams and organizations to achieve business success. Under her guidance and leadership, companies have not only achieved phenomenal profit growth, operational and financial efficiency, but also been recognized for excellence in financial reporting by the South Asian Federation of Accountants. With excellent credentials in leadership qualities, Lilanthi has been very successful in human resource management and been able to guide professionals and students to develop their careers in many specialized areas. She is also a fellow member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, UK, a fellow member of the Certified Practicing Accountants of Australia. Lilanthi extended her qualifications with a master's degree in project management, specializing in business administration from the University of Southern Queensland, Australia. She is a recipient of the Dean's Award from the university and was awarded the most outstanding student for the year allocated for the course. So without further ado, let me welcome Mrs. Herat.
Thank you, Susan.
Hi, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am, and over to you.
Thanks. I was brought up and trained to believe that if I listened more and wished without limits, if I walked in my co-worker's shoes and requested for more feedback, if I offered more feedback and considered another perspective, and if I spent more time outside my comfort zone, that I could be a good leader. Also, if we means as a team, shared our dreams and history and helped to understand each other's values, if we encouraged new viewpoints and celebrated success more often, if we considered team resources good and impressive as our personal achievements, if we encouraged risk-taking and proactively practicing open-mindedness, if we encourage a trustworthy environment for our colleagues, we can, as a team, reach our goals well. So let me very warmly welcome all these aspiring leaders, the participants here to the session, and thank you, Susan, and thank you, American Center, Headway organization, for having me here. So this
Mrs. Herat,
yeah.
Sorry, ma'am. Mrs. Herat, we can't see you, ma'am. I think the video needs to be switched on, ma'am. Now we can. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you missed a treat then.
Yes, but better late than never, ma'am. So thank you.
Right. Let me very warmly welcome all of you. I'm sure all of you heard, although you didn't see my face. Let me warmly welcome all these aspiring leaders and all the participants who are here today. Let's start the presentation now. And I have actually structured this presentation in a very practical way, because, you know, leadership is a very vast subject. And I think it is one of the subjects that had been discussed so much all over. And so I will approach this in a more practical way, where we all understand the heading called Bringing Out the Leader in You. So let me just start. I'm going to stop the video and go to the presentation, Susan, if that is all right with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this heading, as I told you, is a vast area, and I'll be starting with a very small video. Let me show that again. So,
Miss Herat, I don't think you have shared the screen, ma'am.
I haven't. Okay.
We can see it now, Miss Herat.
Oh, sorry about that. Right. So, bringing out the leader in you. Let me show this video again. So, in essence, what exactly is leadership? Leadership, I have found so many definitions for leadership, but I thought this is the most appropriate leadership definition we can actually discuss, because this the rest of the presentation is also structured according to this definition. Right? Leadership can be defined as the process of influencing an organized group towards accomplishing its goals. This is a complex phenomenon involving the leader, the followers, and the situation. So let's go back to the definition. The process of influencing an organized group towards accomplishing its goals. The process of influencing is actually by a particular person. Who's that person? That's a leader. And organized group is actually a set of followers who are following the leader. And accomplishing its goal is actually getting either the vision of the company or whatever the targets that they are given, and looking at the end of the task, accomplishing its goal. So let me just show you now. I think it will be in the right perspective when you see this video again. You can see here the person who's wearing the orange jacket seems to be the person who has reached the summit early, and he has actually helping the person in the blue jacket to climb up. And now the person in the orange jacket looks like the leader, and the person in the blue jacket seems to be the follower. And what is the accomplishing of its target? It's actually reaching the summit. So this is a very simple leadership, follower, and vision, mission, goal scenario. Let me just, after starting this, let me just give you a very interesting video about an inspirational leader. And let's just have a look at that.
Sometimes in life we search for opportunities. Opportunities of life change. Moments of leadership aren't always met with a fanfare, a spectacle, or pageantry. They're selfless and noble. They're inherent, instinctive. Authority doesn't always equate to leadership. A leader knows that teamwork is always better than going at it alone. And being reliable can carry more weight than any position or power. A leader goes the extra mile when you're tired and when it doesn't make sense to. But integrity is about doing the right thing when no one is looking. It's not about having all the answers, but taking what's in your cup and pouring it into someone else's that is less full. People follow those who are selfless and open-handed. A leader sees the potential in someone and blows wind into their sails. You go throughout your day hoping to unlock the potential in someone, hoping that something clicks. And sometimes the day ends wondering if any significant difference has been made, if any ground has been covered, if there is any tangible evidence of your investment, if it was just lost on those you've led, yielding no return. There will be times when you feel like giving up on those whom you've led, when you think that all that effort, all the guidance and direction is all for naught. Please, don't give up on us. Even though we may not be asking for it, we are desperate for you to lead us. Because we are watching. We are paying attention. We're begging for you to keep going. You help us realize that leadership is something worth fighting for, worth running after. What we get is rich, and it's greater than any monetary reward. It's been said leadership doesn't happen in a day. It happens daily. And your influence on us will have ripples felt for days to come.
Right. Okay. Was it interesting? What did we see there? What did we see? We saw a very passionate, committed leader, and we saw a very engaged and connected followers. We also saw a new recruit who was a little disengaged at the beginning, and then who was smiling at the end. And we also saw this the new recruit who was sending a message to her mom saying, this summer is going to be good. He had a very positive attitude during the latter stages. And then we also saw a leader who has empathy and perspective and a never give up attitude. For a leader, you have to have those two traits, empathy and perspective. Empathy is actually something that every leader should have, but it is one of the traits most of the leaders lack. Empathy is actually looking at someone from your point of view, as if you look at him as if he is you. So empathy, as I mentioned, is the most critical leadership quality a leader should have. And then perspective. A leader should be able to, if he sees the team moving out of his path, bring them back to the path and put them in their perspective so that they can actually follow the leader and achieve the task. Nowadays, we have a lot of leaders who are actually very obsessed with their positions in the organization or wherever they are connected to, and forget the rest of the people and the tasks, especially the people involved. I must say, a leader, although a lot of people say a leader is in charge of the task, I say no, the leader is not in charge. The leader is responsible for those in your charge. Your responsibilities for the people in your charge. This is the fundamental fact that we most of the time forget. So let's go to the other.
Sometimes in life we search for opportunities.
Okay, sorry about that. So from what we gathered from that video, we can see an effective leader. Very effective leader is a person who creates an inspiring vision of the future. He is fully aware of his realistic vision, and he is very capable and convincing in conveying the message to the followers, and the leadership is proactive, helping in problem solving, looking ahead, and not being satisfied as things are.
Ms. Herat?
Yeah.
Sorry, ma'am. I think again we can't see the presentation, Ms. Herat.
Okay. How do I do that now?
If you could share the screen again, ma'am, please.
I can't get this now. Okay. I'll share the screen again. Now
Yes,
can you
now
see?
yes, we can see it now, Ms. Herat.
I'm very sorry about this. I'm sure the participants must be wondering what's going on.
Technical glitches, Miss Herat.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, after a video, I think we need to see how it can go to the other slide. Anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
So now, an effective leader, as I mentioned, the leader will create an inspiring vision of the future, and he motivates and inspires people to engage with that vision. Now, you saw in that video how motivated he is, and then how he inspires other people to engage in all the work and the tasks that are given to them. He has been very connected, very engaged in every single activity he did during that video. And this is actually the ability to connect with people's individual goals, needs, and aspirations, to think of the expectations of the vision. This creates the expectation that hard work leads to good results. And we saw that also. Although the first 2 days, the new recruit didn't do much. Actually, his contribution was virtually zero, but he got paid. And that, why was that? Why did he just not yell at him? He realized that this new recruit has potential, and that's why he actually did not want to get rid of him on the first day itself. We are used to, in most of the organizations, people are used to looking at a person first 2 days. If they don't perform, first few weeks, if they don't perform, you just try to get rid of them. But we need to be able to get that person on board, bring him back to the perspective, and then manage him. That is how we get all these good people to work for you. And in most cases, we talk, most of the bosses say, I don't know, I have to get the right team. I think the right team is already there. But of course, you get bad eggs here and there. But then again, when you have the leader should be able to correctly engage people, connect them to the vision, and bring them to follow the leader's vision. A good leader will always do that. And then he coaches and builds a team so that the vision is achieved more effectively. He also, actually, there is something very important here. A leader should be able to identify good talent, understand, and then groom them for future roles. Groom the leaders for future roles. That is also one of the leaders' very critical fundamental requirements of a leader. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I'm talking about the leader again. The leader is someone who knows the way, who goes the way and shows the way. He is not someone who will just ask everyone, okay, that is the goal, you go and achieve. Leader will always show the way. And a leader is someone who will not find fault. He will find a remedy. Most of the time, what we do in our real life is, you make a mistake in an organization, you know, you are doomed for life. The leader and the rest of the management will not look at you as a person who will have a future. It is very similar to parenting, leadership. I will take an example of parenting now. When we have children, we don't, now if we see a child underperforming, we don't actually get the child to, we don't just tell them, okay, you're up for adoption. It is like that when you have a team member who is not up to the mark, they will always, the leader will always be able to bring that guy back to the mainstream, create hope and build up his confidence, and then move forward with the rest of the followers. And the leader always, if you see that video, you can see how confident that leader was and the courage he had to take tough decisions. He was actually taking this young intern on his own. He is actually training him without giving up hope. And that is actually the compassion and to listen and to groom someone. A leader will always be there to help you. It is not like saying, okay, you have made a mistake. I don't think you have potential. You can just hand over your resignation. Now within the next month, you find another job. This is what we mostly we say and do. And a leader is someone who will never lead to gain power. And they don't stop by creating just followers. As I explained earlier, they create more leaders and they inspire instead of manipulating. Okay. Now,
Ms. Herat,
yes.
I have a question. Oh, I think you are going to go into that, Ms. Herat.
Yeah.
So there is a question, Ms. Herat, which asks us, what is your opinion about leaders and managers, ma'am? So I can see that the slide is leading into that.
This
so
slide
would you
is
say?
Yes. This is actually, you know, I knew there might be a question like that. So it's a very pertinent question, really, a manager versus a leader. Now, let me just run through the first section. The most significant difference is the way leaders and managers motivate people to follow them. Leaders have followers and the managers have subordinates. I think that is a very basic, the most fundamental difference we have. Followers are passionately following the leader. They are actually, they have the passion to follow the leader, have faith in the leader. And then the managers are paid and the subordinates are paid. Managers give a set of instructions to the subordinate. And from there, the subordinates just take the message and move forward. They are given specific tasks, and that is all they do. They in a manager and a subordinate relationship, you don't have a lot of opportunity for creativity or a lot of opportunity for being independently thinking, because the manager is also given a target and he has the required authority, which is limited. Also, their progress is very limited up to the point. They are not going to actually go beyond the task that is given to them. That is the manager. So there are two types of leadership: transformational leadership and transactional leadership. Transactional leadership, as the word depicts, it is actually a dealing done with a transaction in mind. That is, you pay a salary, and the manager, when the subordinates do the work, the manager gets a bonus, and you know, like that. It's actually a very sort of an interesting scenario. So this table actually shows how the leader and the manager, the differences between the leader and the manager in certain subject areas. Like, let's say focus. Focus for the leader is leading people, and the manager, as you know, manages work. And the subject of horizon, that is actually the goal you see. For the leader, it's a long-term goal. A leader won't just stop at a point. He will be having this passion to reach the vision of the company. And for a manager, it's always short term. They are given a task, they have to finish that, and then your performance is managed, and then your performance is evaluated at the end of the year, financial year end, or whatever the year or the time for increments. They are given the increments and then the bonuses, and it stops there. Managers will continuously have different tasks to do, and they will have different types of subordinates, and it will be like a very short journey for them. And I explained, leader has the vision and the manager is given an objective. And in terms of approach, a leader will set the direction. Leader will say, okay, this is how we need to go. He won't sit and train every single person to do the task. He will set the direction, guide them, and see them moving forward. The manager has to go into detail to plan the tasks. They are paid to do that. And then just like that, the power, personal charisma, you see in that video how charismatic that leadership is. And the manager, well, he has formal authority, and that authority is also limited up to a point. And then, as I mentioned earlier, style of leadership for a leader is transformational, and the style of leadership for the manager is transactional. I have another very 1 minute long video to show. So, what exactly is boss versus leader? Boss depends on authority. Whether the boss is capable or not, he has the authority over the subordinate. Leader will never use authority. He will actually use his charisma and his personality and get the work done. And that is actually the goodwill that we are talking of. And the boss drives the employees. You can see this manager is just showing the graph, and he's actually pushing the employees to reach the targets. But a leader will coach the employees, coach the followers, and he will make sure that they are passionately following the leader's dream. And this is very interesting. The boss blames for the breakdown. The boss will always have the authority over the subordinate, and he will always, put the blame for the breakdown or the stoppage of work, or if they are unable to reach the target, all those, it will be always an excuse, putting it back to the subordinate. That is actually the boss's style. But a leader will fix the breakdown. Unlike managers, some managers, leaders will not sit and do the work for the follower, but he will always be able to fix the breakdown. So, see, the boss commands and the leader asks. In terms of a job, say the boss wants it done, and he will say, just do this. This is what is required, you do it. And leader has a different style of approach. He will ask, can you do this? because that is his personality and the charisma that brings the follower to do what the leader wants to do. It is always a very unique, charismatic leadership that you can see in a leader. The boss. Now, boss uses people and the leader develops people. What exactly does this mean? The boss is going to be very strict in getting his targets achieved. He will, by hook or by crook, he will make sure that the people are used to achieve his goal. But a leader is not going to just reach the target. He will actually develop the people and make them follow, so that one day the leader can be replaced by one of those whom he has developed and groomed. And the boss inspires fear. He will now we have worked in organizations. Most of the bosses, most of the managers we see will actually push the employee, the subordinate, to work hard in fear. You do this. If you don't do it, well, I'm not very sure whether you can get your increments next month, or your promotions. This is something you have to do, and if you can't do, you can just go home, kind of a thing. That is what the bosses would always say, and they'll instill fear in the subordinate for underperformance. And a leader generates enthusiasm. In that video, you could see how enthusiastic this new intern became after 2 days. I mean, he was so passionately engaged in the process. He was helping other people, smiling, bringing coffee. What did he do originally? He just went, sat in the double cab, and he was just sending text messages. But that is the leader's quality. He can generate enthusiasm so that the followers are passionate about following him. Okay, this is the most interesting part. When a job is done well in an organization, the boss will always take the credit. The boss will always take the credit. The boss will always take the bonuses, the highest amount of bonuses. It's because the boss is also given a task, and his performance is actually measured by the work done by the subordinate. So the boss takes credit, and the leader, in an enviable position, the leader is someone who will always give the credit to the followers. He will, as a normal leader, the leader is accountable for everything. If something goes wrong, he will have to be taking all the blame for himself. And a leader, when things go right and when things are successful, he has to give the credit back to the followers. That is how his leadership quality evolves, so that the followers can follow him, are actually passionate to follow him. And this boss says I, and the leader says we. What is that? Boss is a very authoritative person who can actually use his authority to get a task done. But leader will always say we. It is always a team for him. The team, as in the set of followers, for him, including him, it's a team. Okay. Okay. So this is again a part of that presentation, part of that video, and I have actually added some more thought to the transactional leadership and transformational leadership. Transactional leadership, as I said, there is a manager and a subordinate relationship, and the rewards and punishments are used to motivate. It will always be that in an organization, if you perform the task, you get rewards, and if you don't perform, punishment in the form of a transfer or no increment, or some form of punishment, which actually makes an employee feel very small. It is actually psychologically very bad. And then the transactional leader will name a process, and the outcome is relied upon based on that exchange of the transaction, and then most appropriately described as managerial leadership, because it is managed by subordinate supervision, organization, and performance. This is actually olden days. This was called bureaucratic management, and now we have given a better word to it as transactional leadership. And then, as that video clip showed, their visions are short term. Even the leader is confined and expected to achieve a specific outcome and result. That was explained earlier. And they have intrinsic motivation, limited, and extrinsic motivation, and works well within systems and structures. Has a clear chain of command. Individual creativity is not encouraged because of the process method is already set. Doesn't work well where flexibility is required. Now you see transformational leadership. The transformational leadership is the most charismatic leadership, which takes all followers through a delightful and an inspirational journey. And the leader involvement actually raises motivation and morality. You can see there are two opposite leaderships I wanted to show you, Mahatma Gandhi and Adolf Hitler. Mahatma Gandhi used his leadership skills to find followers, find a large amount of followers for a good cause. Hitler, on the other hand, used his leadership powers, his authority, and all his talents as a leader for the bad of the world, or well, to start a war. And then a transactional a transformational leader has empathy towards everybody. He is charismatic and he is inspiring. His inspiration is what the followers decide to follow the leadership. And then, I actually need to just show, discuss why some managers are not leaders. Some managers, now, when we are at very junior levels, we go through this journey, we start work, some of us are very highly motivated, we do a lot of hard work, good work, and after a while, after a certain period, you are proven to be a good person. And then sometimes when you are really driven, you start getting your academic qualifications, you start being better than others, and then at a point like that, these good performers will be promoted as at a higher level. But at that, during that promotion process, if we don't give a proper training and a proper transition, some people take a long time to transit, some people take a very short time to transit, some people don't transit properly at all. So there are people who are, just because they perform in a job all the time and it's proven to be good, not everyone can be a manager, or not everyone can actually create that leadership. But leadership is something we can learn and we can practice. Leadership is always a proper transition and then training these people to take leadership to their hands. So, and I will actually touch on the required skills of a leader to be successful. For a leader to be successful, communication is the key. The leader should be able to communicate very well to drive the organization. And I need to actually just quote this. You know, Warren Buffett, who was actually who is one of the richest in the world, says improving communication skills will boost one's professional value by 50%. So that shows how important communication skills are at both personal and organizational levels. And the leader, a very skillful leader, will be able to effectively delegate. When you delegate, you actually don't delegate the responsibility of the end result. You just delegate, the person who gets delegated will be accountable for effective delivery of the end result. And then diversity management skills. Now, in that leadership, in that inspirational video you saw, how he managed the diverse teams. There were different age groups and there were different sort of cultural, there were people with different cultural backgrounds, and then the generation gap, the ages, the young generation and then the older generation. And he is also someone who can actually be very analytical. He has to identify from a whole set of data what data is actually related to his business, or if he wants to process information, he needs to be able to sort the information adequately. The ability to make sound decisions in uncertain and ambiguous environments. The ability to make sound decisions is yet another very important skill a leader should have. And then influential and persuasive abilities with different groups. Identify, attract, develop, and retain talented people. This is actually, I would actually put this as one of the most critical ones, you know, developing and retaining talented people so that they can be groomed for future requirements. And then learning from experience. And then your intellectual energy and mental agility. Strategic thinking with regard to global thinking. So these are the skills of a leader. And a leader, if the leader is to be successful, this is actually very important. And now this, I just wanted to show you how the skills of certain leaders are differentiated. So, there are skills that can be changed, basically developed and improved and harnessed. There are certain other skills which are actually very difficult to change. Let me start with the behavioral skills which are actually easy to change. There are competencies because you can actually educate them, you can train them, you can give them tuition or whatever and get them to improve their competencies and skills. Like, if it is a technical job, you just improve the skills and the behavior of the person. And then your knowledge in the practical intelligence in your knowledge, it is easier to change with training and skillful development. It's easier to change. And then practical intelligence in experience, when you are given proper training, you should be able to manage this practical intelligence in terms of experience. The most difficult part is actually intelligence. There are people who are intelligent and smart in figures, and there are some people who are actually intelligent in their creative abilities. Some are intelligent in general life. So these intelligence traits are not something you can just come and instill. It's something that is difficult to change. It is inbuilt in you. And personality traits and preferences. Although personality traits, some of the personality traits and preferences can be changed. No, in most cases, people who can't handle stress, will actually invariably crack in a tough situation. And their preferences, personality traits and preferences are also things that are difficult to change, and their values, interests, motives, and goals. If we are born with certain requirements, and there are some people who have their values, no matter what, they will not change those, and those are things that is difficult to change. And these are the building blocks of skills that we can see how easy to change, and some of the building blocks, the difficulties in changing. I wonder anyone has any questions?
Yes, ma'am. I was just about to ask you if I could interrupt you there. So, ma'am, this actually gives rise to two questions. One is, I think, the age-old question. In your opinion, would you say that leaders are thereby born? Because when we talk about personality traits, or would you say leaders are made, ma'am?
Well,
just your opinion on that.
Yeah. Well, actually, let me just link leadership to parenting. It's very similar in most of the aspects. A leader, let's take parenting. A person, anybody can be a parent. You can adopt, you can have a baby, you can actually give birth to a baby, and then you can become a parent. But not all parents should be parents, and not all people want to be parents also. So those who want to be leaders it's a lot of sacrifice and hard work to be a leader. You just need to nurture it and practice. It is always learnable. To be a leader, I mean, you don't have to be born to a rich family and have a flashy car and be tall and 6 feet and wearing nice suits. A leader can be built. It is not difficult for a leader if you have the right skills and right education and the right training. With the right training and the education, the leaders can be built. And now I just want to in that managers and leaders skill, I actually forgot to mention about an example that I wanted to quote. Now let's say the manager walks into your room and says, look, the figures, your results are down for 3 consecutive periods, for 3 consecutive quarters. If you don't perform, I am not sure whether your existence is assured here. So how do you think a person who gets that feel? Do you think he'll be motivated to work the next day, to come to work the next day? And also the same question you can ask, if it's a proper leader, a leader can ask, okay, your revenues are down for 3 consecutive quarters. I'm worried. Are you all right? Do you need any help? Do you need to talk about it? Or something like that. You know, the two different approaches to the same issue makes the manager and the leader different. Sorry, I deviated from that, Susan.
That's okay, ma'am. Ma'am, so this gives rise to another question, ma'am. With that context, would you say that emotional intelligence is a skill that a leader needs to acquire?
Yes, emotional intelligence is extremely important. You need to be able to understand that empathy, creation of empathy, that is actually creating, it's a very superior form of intelligence where you just create the empathy for the other person in the organization, taking care of each other. So emotional intelligence in terms of team building and emotional intelligence in terms of how you react is also very important. A lot of people crack, actually they just break down, they actually break down under stress, and I have seen a lot of people who do that, and then, you know, they say things and do things which actually cannot be brought back. So emotional intelligence in an organization is extremely important for the organization's well-being as well as for the person's well-being also.
Right, ma'am. If you are up to another question, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead. I think we are running
Can
short
I
of time.
ask you? Yes. So, no, ma'am. We're good for now. So, ma'am, a lot of people were actually asking, because we're stating about managers and leaders. So, where would you actually need a manager, and where would you need a leader? Or is a manager a leader, or is it vice versa? How does it happen? Or are they two different entities completely?
A manager can always be a leader, but a leader will never be a manager. Manager is someone who's actually who has those restrictions as a boss. He has his commanding abilities, his authority is limited, he has a short-term vision. The managers don't have long-term goals for the company. They are given annually. There are budgets, you know, we all know what a budget is. We create annual budgets, and the manager's task is actually just to get there, and at the end of the year your performance is evaluated, and you know, you are either categorized as a successful performer or a good performer or otherwise. But in a leader has a very long-term vision. Although in a manager there can be a leader, there can always be a leader, and the leader will never be in that tunnel vision of a manager. Leader has followers who inspires, whereas a manager is not actually very inspirational in an organization. There may be managers who are inspirational, but you know, the companies don't actually require. Now, take for instance a leadership, as I just took Mahatma Gandhi. You know, he what was he? He wasn't even you know, he is not even a violent person. He is such a soft-spoken, very petite person who commanded, I think, respect from the rest of the world. The entire world respected him for what he did. So he is a leader and he will never be confined to a managerial position. Did I answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So like you said, a manager could be a leader, but a leader never is a manager, ma'am. Yes. Thank you.
So I'm actually just taking you through a grid where the the certain leadership styles required to run certain businesses. Now this actually shows on your x-axis the concern for results on your horizontal line, and on your vertical line you see the concern for people. So this grid actually shows if you have low concern for people and low concern for results, it is improvised managers, and there's minimum effort is required for a job to be done, and you know, it's just the organization will just move and they don't require a lot of effort in terms of managing people or in terms of achieving results. And if you see on the extreme right hand bottom, where concern for results is very high and concern for people is not so much, that is actually 9 and 1. Authority, this is actually very authoritative style of management, and it's like, you know, you comply to certain requirements. You are given a target, you have to achieve it, whether it is actually the efficiency in operations that will result in getting such management style in place. And here human element is not considered that important. And then you see the concern for people is very high and concern for results is very low, 1 and 9. Country club management, that is actually called country club management because thoughtful attention to detail is needed at every step of the way. They are looking at a friendly organizational atmosphere and happy work tempo. So concern for people in that organization is very high, and they are not very concerned about the results. These are like, you know, the club management, where the people, keeping people's relationships satisfying and comfortable is the key. And then you have the team management, which is actually the ideal scenario for leadership, where concern for results and concern for people go hand in hand. And this is a real team management, where work accomplishment is from committed people, interdependence through a common stake in the organization, and relationships are with trust and respect. That is actually a very well, difficult to achieve, but nice to have feeling management style. But of course in Sri Lanka we do have organizations like this. And in the middle you see the middle of the road management, where concern for people and concern for results is 5 to 5. There, the organization performance is possible through balancing the necessity to get work out while maintaining values and morale of people at satisfactory levels. So your concern for people and concern for results go hand in hand here. So this is actually a leadership grid figure, leadership grid, where you can identify what type of leadership you require in certain organizations. And sorry, did anyone ask the question?
Yes, Ms. Hera, with
Yeah.
relation to this leadership grid, there is a question that has been brought up. So, say a leader has observed a team member not cooperating with the team and not pulling his weight per se. And he has been given warning, the leader has been patient with him and done his best to encourage this team member, but that behavior, that disruptive behavior hasn't changed. So in your opinion, ma'am, what would be the next step as a leader to both maintain the team spirit but also ensure that the organization's well-being is
Ensured.
also looked after, yeah, is ensured?
Yeah, actually, now if all those precautions and warnings and trainings and and advices have been given, and if he has still not changed, he probably may not be in the right job, or he may be having actually, if maybe he has some issue where his personal life is in disarray, he needs some help, he needs some counseling. If all those are looked after, and if everything has failed, for him it will be very sort of healthy for him to leave the organization than being and creating toxic energies in the team. And eventually he will anyway be disregarded from the team also. If he's not pulling the weight, not everyone is going to pull that person's weight towards achieving a goal. Personally, as a senior person in the organization, if I am given that task, I would actually do a one-to-one final chat and ask him whether he really wants to change, or whether he wants to move forward in another organization.
Right, ma'am. So if I've understood you correctly, once all of this is done, I think the leader will need to adapt according to the situation, isn't it, ma'am?
Yes, because
Right.
a leader, I mean, a leader, as a leader, shouldn't be spending too much time just trying to correct one person who seems to be impossible. Everywhere you get bad eggs. But if all the other options have been exhausted by the leader, that is actually, if all those have been exhausted, yes, that should be the next step, because a toxic relationship and the toxic energies should not be in an organization, a high performing team. It shouldn't be there.
Thank you, Ms. Hera.
Welcome. Any other questions?
Ms. Herat, I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, now, if you consider the current generation, the younger workforce, why do you think, Ms. Herat, it's difficult for them to stick to a job for a long time until they are groomed as leaders or considered for higher positions, ma'am?
Yes, this we have actually quite a lot of experience. It's a very interesting scenario when you talk about the younger generation, the new generation who's actually taking over the new jobs as interns, as junior executives. For them, most of them are within a particular age had been. It's a different. Generation altogether. Most of these people have, what you call a malfunction in the parenting capabilities, because, as parents, most of these people in that generation, the parents have got involved too much in their children's work, their studies, their well-being, and, they have actually got a sense of entitlement. They think that if they want something, they can get it, and the parents work their guts off to get them, to make them happy by getting the stuff, uh, getting what they want. And also parents have always been involved in this generation. The parents have got involved in schools. You know how this how the parents get involved in school extracurricular activities, school papers, marks, and then the parents want their children to be privileged. Everybody, I think, 95% of the parents are involved in the child, and during school time, I'm sure you all know that people, it's not just the students, it's not just the first, second, and third places get awards. Even the last gets an award for participation. I mean, that looks unfair by the people who have won. So it is like, that they have come with a sense of entitlement, and they feel very impatient when that entitlement doesn't crop up when they start work, because they realize that they are not entitled when they make a mistake. They are not entitled to get whatever they want in an organization, because there is a protocol, and the parents can't get you to get a promotion. So that sense of entitlement and the impatience, and also the technology, where they have actually got disengaged with the generation, with the rest of the people. The technology, the mobile phones, the Facebook, all that. Virtually, even if they are among friends, they prefer to use technology, send messages, than just interacting and connecting with people as human beings. We human beings, of all the species in the world, we are people who really need, we are social animals. We need that socializing skill. So now, in that generation, most of them have been deprived of that connection. So basically all that. And when you are coming from a generation like that, the environment when you come to the organization, they find it very difficult to be engaged and get connected to the environment. For them, it's I think they have this shock element which comes to them. They are finding it difficult to cope. Their coping mechanisms are very low now. Most of the time, if you are lonely, some people would actually go talk to a friend, or go to somebody whom you want to talk to. But what do these a lot of people do? They use technology, use the phones, they just send messages, talk rubbish. They just don't have that sense of connectivity when they are with embracing technology beyond a certain limit. So this kind of generation, when they come to the workforce, they expect promotions and privileges without actually earning it. And it is this scenario where you are at the bottom of the mountain, you see the summit, you want to get to the summit, but you don't see the height of the mountain. That is exactly what happens when they come to work. They just are not, most of the people who are not stable in a particular job is because they are disengaged. That aspect has to be addressed by everyone. Even a leader, when they see when the leader, this is where proper leadership comes into play. The empathy and the empathy you create among the generation, because we know that this generation has been a generation who think they are entitled to everything. But then again, their stability is actually impaired, simply compromised because of their long-term dependency on either parents, entitlements, their impatience, and then based on technology. So there should be a balance between the younger generations wanting to move, never being happy with what they do. It's just not just the job. Even in relationships, I have seen it happening. They are, if they are not happy with this person, okay, we'll go to the other person. The relationships are also compromised that way. So it's actually the generation. Now, when we know that generation has a challenge like that, I think the leaders should also be concerned about improving their attitude towards him, and make sure that they have they realize that nothing comes easy. Everyone has to struggle. Everyone has a course of a course to walk through, a role to play, a journey to go. It's not it's like seeing the destination without taking the journey. I think that generation who's frustrated about it should also understand that it's a slow process. Nothing falls on your lap just because you want it.
Thank you, Ms. Hera. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Right. So with that, I'd like to tell everyone that we have actually shared the link for your feedback. Please make sure to go to the link and give us your feedback while we open it out for questions. If there are any more questions, please let us know. Let me share the link one more time. So please follow this link to the feedback form, and we would like if you could please send us in your feedback. Ms. Hera, thank you so much, ma'am. It was wonderful having you here with us, and I'm just waiting to see if there's any more questions for you.
Yes.
Right, ma'am. So there is one question now. How could leaders actually adapt to the changing that's happening with the pandemic and all of that? Is there any sort of way that a leader, that you would say a leader could adapt to what's going on?
Well, the present situation is not something anyone ever envisaged, and it has actually gone too far for people. But I think in a situation like this, the very smart leaders will pull through. They are going to pull through. And those who are lagging behind will not survive. This is a time where your agility, your capability, and all those traits and skills of a leader will come to play. In a normal situation, you don't really need to be thinking about new streams of income, new ways of doing business. All that comes to play when in a situation like this. So the good leaders will always adapt. They will always change their course of action to suit the current situation. And there will be followers to follow them, and the leaders will be able to inspire. Leaders will be able to guide the followers, and those who do it well will thrive in situations like this. And a lot of people who are not flexible, who have actually not embraced those skills, empathy, perspective, passion, will perish. And
Thank you, Ms.
And we see
Sorry,
that
happening
now. Some of the businesses are already getting closed because they are not geared to change. They are not ready to embrace change.
Thank you, Ms. Hera. Thank you so much. I'm sure I benefited from this session, and I'm sure everyone else did as well. It was a pleasure having you here, ma'am. And with that, I'd like to remind the participants that we are going to have a session on email writing next week. Please make sure to keep in touch with us, and we will share how you can register for the program as well. please follow the link that is on the chat box and give us your feedback. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Right. So once again, Ms. Hera, thank you so much. And I would like to thank the participants as well for joining us. And I'm sure you did benefit from the program. It is quite a large subject, and I think it's not something that could be covered within an hour or so. But thank you, Ms. Herat, for taking the time to share your expertise and your understanding on such a vast subject with us, ma'am.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you all the participants and all these aspiring leaders whom we will be working for one day in the future, in the near future. All the best of luck to all of you and stay safe. Good luck. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Same to you, ma'am. Right. So once again, do remember that next week we are having another session. It will be on email writing. So please make sure to go to the link that has been shared on the chat box. Give us your feedback. We'll love to hear from you, and we will also be in touch with regards to our next session next week. So thank you, everyone.
Good night. Bye.
Good night, ma'am.